Have you ever felt totally powerless when dealing with a seller? Well, today we're going to flip that script. We're going on a journey from the store shelf all the way to the courtroom to show you exactly how to go from being just another buyer to a truly empowered consumer. This is your guide to knowing your rights. Seriously, we've all been there, right? That sinking feeling when a product is just not what they said it was, or a service completely lets you down. It's a feeling we all know. But you know what? It doesn't have to be the end of the story. Okay, let's get into it.
So to really understand the rights we have now, we first need to look at how things used to be. For a long time, the marketplace was, well, it was a pretty unfair place where the power was almost always stacked against the individual shopper.
And this exploitation can show up in all kinds of ways. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's right in your face. It's the shopkeeper giving you a little less than you paid for, the hidden fees that suddenly appear on a bill, or a company selling you a product that's defective or just straight up lying in their ads. These aren't just little annoyances, they are fundamentally unfair. And for ages, this was pretty much the attitude you'd get. Once your money was in their hands, any and all responsibility was suddenly on you, the buyer. The whole idea was let the buyer beware, which basically left you with zero options if something went wrong.
And don't think for a second this was just about small local shops. We're talking about massive companies too. For years, one huge corporation marketed its baby milk powder as being scientifically better than mother's milk. Can you believe that? It took a long, hard-fought battle to get them to admit those claims were false, which just goes to show you how powerful companies can bend the truth. But out of all that frustration, something started to change. People began to realize that while they were weak on their own, if they organized, if they stood together, they could become a real force to be reckoned with. Now, this didn't happen overnight. It really started gaining steam in India back in the 1960s, mostly out of necessity. People were fighting against food shortages and black marketing. By the 70s, you had groups taking on everyday issues. Then in 1985, the whole thing went global with the UN Guidelines for Consumer Protection. And that all led to a huge moment for India in 1986. The government passed the Consumer Protection Act, also known as COPRA.
And COPRA wasn't just another piece of paper. It was a revolution. It completely flipped the script. Now, the responsibility for quality was on the seller, and it gave regular people, consumers like you and me, a real legal way to fight back. Think of this act as giving every single consumer a powerful toolkit. So, let's open up that toolkit and see what's inside. These are the essential rights you have right now. First up, and this one is a biggie, you have the right to safety. This means you should be protected from any product that could actually hurt you. A great example is a pressure cooker. A tiny, defective safety valve can turn a simple kitchen tool into something incredibly dangerous. This right means producers have to follow safety rules, and it protects you when they fail. And this is so important. Just listen to the story of Regi Matthew. He was a healthy student who was crippled for life because of improper anesthesia during an operation. His father fought the case, and the National Commission held the hospital responsible for medical negligence. This wasn't just about getting compensation, it was about getting justice and affirming his fundamental right to be safe. Okay, next up in your toolkit is the right to be informed. This is the reason you see ingredients, MRP, and expiry dates on everything you buy. You have a right to know exactly what you're getting. And this right got a massive boost in 2005 with the Right to Information Act, which lets citizens demand information from government departments too. And check this out. Here's how powerful this can be. Take Amritha, an engineering graduate, waiting to hear about a government job. She heard nothing, so she used the RTI Act. And what happened? Not only did she get an answer explaining the delay, but she also got her appointment letter. That is what empowerment looks like.
You also have the right to choose. A seller can't bully you into buying something you don't want just to get something you do. You know, like if a shopkeeper says, "Sorry, you can only buy this toothpaste if you also buy this toothbrush." Nope, that's your right to choose being denied right there.
And this applies to services, not just products. A student named Abhirami joined a coaching institute but felt the teaching was really bad. The institute refused to refund her fees for the second year, so she took them to the Consumer Commission. And the commission agreed with her, saying she had every right to choose to leave a service that wasn't delivering what it promised.
Now for what might be the most critical tool in the entire kit, the right to seek redressal. This means that when you've been wronged, when a product is faulty or a service is just terrible, you have the right to get a remedy. That could be a replacement, a refund, or even compensation for any harm done.
Okay, so you have these rights, which is great, but how do you actually use them? What do you do? Let's walk through the practical steps to getting justice.
Let's follow the story of a man named Prakash. He sent a money order to his daughter for her wedding, but the money just never got there. The post office gave him the runaround, no clear answers, so he went to a local consumer counsel for advice, and then he actually filed a case himself in a consumer commission, and guess what? He won. His story is the perfect example of how one person can take on a huge system and actually get justice.
COPRA made this possible by creating a clear 3-level system for these cases. For claims up to 1 crore rupees, you go to the district commission. For claims between 1 and 10 crores, you head to the state commission. And for anything over 10 crores, it's the national commission. It's a structured path, and it's designed to be accessible for everyone.
So, we have the laws and we have the commission set up to help. But here's the thing. The system only really works if we, as consumers, are part of it. So how do you become an active, empowered consumer? It really just starts with a few simple habits. Always, always get a bill. That's your proof. Keep an eye out for quality marks like ISI or AgMark. Check the dates on products. And most importantly, know the rights we've just been talking about. Just being alert is your absolute best first line of defense.
Now, let's be realistic for a second. The process isn't always fast, and it can be a bit of a hassle. It requires proof, which is why that bill is so important. But you have to remember, it's the active participation of people like you that keeps this whole movement going and makes the system work for everyone.
And this whole idea is so important that every year on December 24th, India celebrates National Consumers Day. Why that day? Because it marks the exact day back in 1986 that the Consumer Protection Act was passed, locking these rights into law.
And all of this brings us to the final and most important question. The laws are there. The path to justice exists. But the consumer movement is only as strong as the consumers who are part of it. The power is truly in your hands. So the question is, are you ready to use it?